Today, we're going to be talking about The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Now, the book that I have right now is a volume, but it has 3 books in it. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, The Marvelous Land of Oz, if we can get that, if we can focus on that. Yep, there we go. Marvelous Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz. Now, let's get into it. So, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, as many may know, is a classic American fairy tale, written by L. Frank Baum. He pretty much wrote the book that was responsible for one of the greatest movies in American television, pretty much, and in cinema, period. It did set the stage because the book was published in 1900, so it set off that whole century of, what film, and classic, book to film adaptations were. And also, it touched the hearts of many young children across America. Now, the book that I have right now, I did not buy this recently. So I believe this was around post-COVID, or when everybody started, started running out of their house. Like, yeah, we could be outside now. Around that time. And like many readers, I know that this was one of those ones where I said I got it on a deal on Amazon, and I got it. It arrived out for delivery. Boom, got it to my house, and then I stuck it over there. I didn't read it. Now, this year, since I'm developing my reading habit and a better reading habit and documenting my journey, these were the first books that I wanted to dive into, of course, with others that I reread that I already have. But specifically, this Wonderful Wizard of Oz, the first book I want to speak about today. Now, just to tell you, in this, there's 5 volumes. And on Amazon, they may still have it, but there's 5 volumes, and which we're going to get into. One of the reasons why I bought it was because I've always loved the movie Wizard of Oz. I've always loved it. I can quote it front to back. I can sing all the songs in there. And I also love The Wiz with Diana Ross, Nipsey Russell, Michael Jackson, Richard Pryor, a bunch of them in there, a bunch of great actors in there. But this book right here is a classic. And when I found out that there were 13 other books in the series, I was like, you mean to tell me it didn't end when Dorothy went back home? Oh yeah, it's a wrap. So the first book, this is going to be spoiler free. I'm going to do another video with spoilers because there's, as you may know and you may not know, The Wizard of Oz is one of the most broken down books that's ever been written in terms of novels, because and one of the reasons why is because L. Frank Baum was, most people don't know that he was an occultist, and he was in the Theosophy Society with Helena P. Blavatsky, which was basically they were all into occult secrets, esoteric knowledge, things that go beyond the physical, right? And there's been a lot of breakdowns, like is The Wizard of Oz about the chakras? Is it about politics? Is it foretelling of something in the future, right? There's been a lot of different breakdowns. But for me personally, I, of course, along with that, being symbolic, but because it is a children's book, and to the point to where even if you take in that consideration in terms of being into occult and esoteric knowledge and putting that into a children's book, that's one of the greatest attributes of a teacher, period. Being able to break complex characteristics or complex things down into where even a child can understand it. So, getting into just a brief overview, it does start with, of course, Dorothy, being in Kansas, she in the prairies of Kansas. She lives, you know, with her Auntie Em and Uncle Henry, and on the farm. And of course, a cyclone comes and pretty much takes her up in the air, and it places her down into what, Munchkin Land, which starts off what, she kills the Wicked Witch of the East. Right now, this takes her on a journey because she wants to find home. She realizes that her Auntie Em, Uncle Henry, they're not at the farm. She's like, we're a long way from Kansas. Like, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. She realizes that she wants to get home. That's her main goal. Now, Glenda the Good Witch, she also comes around in the Munchkins, in Munchkin Land, and tells her, you know, just to follow the yellow brick road. Along the yellow brick road, she meets the Scarecrow, she meets the Tin Man, or in here, he's called the Tin Wood Man, which is getting more into his origin story. And then also you find the Cowardly Lion, as is the hilarious. he's funny. But along that line they go, of course, you know, and they're pretty much on the way to see the wizard, because all of them have something that they can find in the wizard, and it's told through, you know, through Glenda and the Munchkins. You know, if you go to the wizard, he might be able to, you know, help you get home. The Scarecrow get some brains, Tin Woodman get your heart, and the Cowardly Lion get some courage, or if I found the nerve in the Wizard of Oz. And of course, you know, they get some challenges and trials and tribulations along the way. And that's just it. That's just the one, just, it's talking about the whole journey. And Dorothy trying to find her way back home. And in doing so, she gets, along with Toto, her dog, she teams up with these friends, and they, you know, go along this journey to Oz. Now, that's a brief overview. Now, what I'm going to say in terms of the ratings, if we're talking about out of a 5-star, I would say a 5-star, and here's why. Number one, L. Frank Baum, he writes in a way to where you don't want to put the book down. Like, this is a children's book. This is a children's book, and mind you, back then there's no television. Most likely they only had radio, newspaper, and then books. There was no television. Everybody was still running outside there, and there was no cable. It wasn't no cell phones. It wasn't no none of that. So during that period of time, even when you read the book, he writes in a way that not only you as an adult can understand it, but a child can understand it. And even reading it, one of the things that I noticed was the way that he writes. Back then, the reading level at which they were reading would, and remember, because in the notes, in like the dedication, after the Wizard of Oz, this is still in relation to the book. After the Wizard of Oz, in terms of the Marvelous Land of Oz, Ozma of Oz, he mentions that these kids across the country were writing letters to him, right? This means, and I'm only saying this because his writing level is very simple, it's very easy to read, but in my perspective, it's way higher than what you would think a kid should be reading it. It's very simple, very easy to read. There's no chapters or anything where it's like, all right, man, you could have skipped over that. Like this, and with me, this put my mind in a realm to where, like, I really believe that I was, like, as a kid reading this book again. Like, I didn't have to watch the movie. It made the movie all the more better, which is why the movie was so profound, because this is a whole, remember, I told you, there's 14 books in the series. The way they adapted the book, there's a lot that is in the movie that the book had more in it. Like, they left a lot out in the movie, but they held so firm to the core of the story that you can't help but appreciate the movie. Like The Wiz, you couldn't help but make another adaptation. You couldn't, like, with me personally, and I'm only recommending it to you. I only say 5 stars because it's very easy to read. It is one of those ones to where, like, it's up there in terms of when you're talking about Lord of the Rings and all of these fantasy novels that have come out, even with Chronicles of Narnia. All those books that have maps in the book, that have maps that are like along the lines of world building, that's when you get into the point to where, like, oh yeah, this is deeper than deep, right? All of this is building. Not only are these characters being developed individually, but they're being developed in environments, and these environments, through the ongoing, through reading the story, you're going to start to realize everything and everywhere in relation to the story. And your whole imagination while you're reading it is not just following the characters. You're thinking, what's going on over there? What's going on over there? Is this in relation to this? And for this to be at a children's level, and for this to be fantasy, oh yeah. Definitely needs to be on your TBR. And that's one thing that I've noticed. Nobody's talked about the Wizard of Oz books. Like, it took me wanting to read the Wizard of Oz, and then finding out on Amazon that there's 13 other books. So, as it pertains to me personally, I read the first book this week. I read the second book, Ozma of Oz, this week as well, and I read that in one day. The first book is about 180 something pages, and then the second book is about 200. So these are very simple, very easy to read. These are not big books, which is one of the reasons why you can put all three in one actual hard copy book, right? And I will say that these are very addictive. Like, you're gonna want to read all the way through the book 3, because the way book 1 ends, and the way, like I said, they left a lot out in the movie. There's so much in connection to, like, well, what happened to Boom Boom Boom? What happened to Boom? What happened? And that's exactly why he said in the dedication, and before The Marvelous Land of Oz and after The Wizard of Oz, because I believe, The Wizard of Oz was written in 1900, and I believe the second one, Marvelous Land of Oz, was published in 1904, and the Ozma of Oz was published in 1907. So these are 3 books within a 7-year span. But in The Marvelous Land of Oz, he had kids writing from all over the country, like, what happened to the Scarecrow? What happened to the Tin Woodman? So I'm only telling you this. I had the same, even buying it, I had the same mindset, to the point to where none of this was really to the point to where it's like he left, like the plot was just like it was just empty, to the point to where the book felt incomplete. It does leave you, like, wanting more and more and more and more and more. And I will go more into the spoiler version, because there's a lot of breakdowns, and I'm going to give my personal breakdown, as The Wizard of Oz is one of the best books ever written and that I've ever read. But there's another recommendation that I'll drop right here for anybody who, because I'm documenting my reading journey and my reading habit, building it along the way, what I'm reading, what I'm about to read, spoiler free, that sort of thing. I will say, if you want to get back into reading, no matter if you like fantasy or not, I would recommend starting with The Wizard of Oz. Not only because this is a personal recommendation, but because it's very easy to read, and also reading as an activity, especially fantasy, and even more getting into children's books, it puts you in that state of being a child. And that state of being a child is you being very free, worry free, no responsibilities, no all your needs are being met. It puts you like in that realm of the imagination to where like nothing else matters but what's happening right here. And these books, especially off of these first two, but specifically the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, oh yeah, it puts you right in that state the entire time. So I will say, if you want to get back into reading, I would recommend these and the Wonderful Wizard of Oz starting out. I'm not even sure. Well, they probably do have single copies of each, but I see this one, and I'm not sure if it has the same deal, but it is in Canada it's $22.99, but in the US it's $19.99. So for all three books, those first three books, you get for $19.99 in one copy. So yeah, they're beautiful covers. This is a little, you know, I done put it in a little bag, you know, it's done got a little folded. But yeah, like it's one of the greatest stories ever written, to be honest. It takes you through the journey because and I'll just be very upfront with you. I cried when I watched the Wiz and the Wizard of Oz this year. When I was getting back into it, and I was like, oh yeah, and like I was watching the movies, and then that's when I was like, okay, boom, I got on the books. And if y'all haven't seen my first video about the three Jokers, a lot of this channel and a lot of my interests, not in their entirety, but a lot of my interests in terms of books connect with movies. So I have a lot of books that if you go on Netflix, like series based on books or a movie based on books, I like to do that. Not only comparing the world, not only comparing what they included, what they left out, but I also like to bridge the gap between whether I read the book first and then I watched the movie after, or the movie was so impactful that I got the book. So or the series, either which one. So like I said, L. Frank Baum, shout out to him. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz is I'll say it's a 5-star read. For a children's book, for fantasy, for the time that it was written, it's very easy to read. I'm telling you, there's no dry spots. It's going to leave you wanting more. Hell, I would recommend you buy the whole set. I'm gonna try to I'll try to link down and I'll try to find the complete collection because there's 14 books. There's 14 in the series. And Dorothy, Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, and the Cowardly Lion, Toto being in there, the Munchkins, and I'll just give you a brief overview. You got the Quadlings in the south, you got the Munchkins in the east, you got the Winkies, which if you remember in the movie, where the Wicked Witch of the West castle was, right? That's where she was, with the big globe and the flying monkeys that she sent out. You'll learn more about the flying monkeys, or the winged monkeys. You'll learn more about them, their origin story. Who else? In the top is Gillikin Country. And then right in the center is Oz, or the Emerald City. This is all in the land of Oz, right? So yeah, if you can tell that this is a book that very much impacted me, because it not only did it tap into my inner child, it kept me wanting more. And especially since I'm documenting this habit that I am, you know, taking upon and getting back into reading, this was a very good book that I'm starting out on. And also series, and they didn't make any movies after The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, so you already know you're about to get into something to where now it's about to be really you, like your imagination getting up with or getting into the wonderful land of Oz, because that's the second book. The Marvelous Land of Oz. That's when you really get into like, okay, what is Oz, where it is, in relation to everything else, the other characters, right? Deeper into people's origin stories. And yeah, just in the summary, I give it 5 out of 5. Very easy read. Leaves you wanting more. There's 13 other books in the series, so if you get this book, the complete collection, I'm gonna make it more clear. There we go. The complete collection, Oz, L. Frank Baum, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, right there. If you get that right there, you can automatically have 3 right in your hand. So, and like I said, that's $20 for this book. Not sure how much the whole thing cost, but I'll link it down below. But yeah, highly recommend. This was the spoiler-free version. We'll get into a spoiler version and break it down more and more. And look forward to the next video, which is going to be the Marvelous Land of Oz. Appreciate you.